Entitled sister-in-law wants custody of my baby. Today, we are diving into entitled in-laws. So I have some Reddit stories, and the last one has several updates. So strap in, this is going to be interesting. Also, I apologize if I seem a little bit more low energy today. I'm sort of losing my voice, so I'm trying not to do too much, but I want to get these stories out for y'all, so let's get started. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law to please keep her criticisms to herself and eventually for kicking her out of lunch? I, female 32, am a mom to a beautiful little girl, female 6, and she has been telling me about a new cafe that her friend went to, which serves princess cakes. She says it's very fancy and people only go for special occasions when they can dress up. I had a look online and they specialize in high teas. It looked lovely and I knew it would make my daughter happy, so I booked a table. Unfortunately for me, this place is brand new and very popular, so while I initially wanted to book for Mother's Day in a couple of weeks, I could only arrange a table for today. I thought we could still do it as an early Mother's Day celebration, so I also invited my mom, female 60, and my mother-in-law, female 64. My daughter was so excited. She wore her favorite dress and told everyone that she would be just like a princess. It was lovely to share her joy. My mother-in-law, on the other hand, was not so thrilled. Now, it is important to note that while my mother-in-law has a heart of gold, she is very salt of the earth and is quite frugal. I genuinely don't mean this as a criticism, it is just who she is. Despite it being my treat, my mother-in-law insisted that the whole thing was a waste of money, that the cakes were beyond ridiculous in their size, and it was all a bit pretentious. She is obviously entitled to her own opinion, but I could clearly see that her comments were sapping some of my daughter's joy. Even when my daughter said this is what princesses eat, after a comment about how ridiculous it all looks, my mother-in-law said that princesses would want a proper meal and not something that is fit only to feed birds. Eventually, I asked my mother-in-law to accompany me to the bathroom, and I asked her to please keep her criticisms and negative comments to herself. We were trying to have a nice day together, but more importantly, my daughter had really been looking forward to this, and it was difficult for her to enjoy when someone is constantly acting negatively. My mother-in-law said I was giving my daughter far too much credit. She wouldn't understand half of the criticisms, and even if she did, it is important that she understands the value of money. Eventually, I asked her to please leave if she couldn't let my daughter enjoy herself, which is what she did. Now my mother-in-law is telling the family that I cut her out of the Mother's Day celebration because she was too frugal and wouldn't pander to a child. I know she is being ridiculous, but my husband is saying I could have just kept the peace for a couple of hours, but I instead chose to act drastically. He said the family being together is more important than whether someone feels a restaurant is overpriced. Did I act drastically? Was I the a-hole? No. In my opinion, you were not. I feel like she was being a little bit of a Debbie Downer and ruining the vibe, and then you even tried to pull her aside and not do it in front of everybody and just talk to her and say, hey, look, my daughter has been looking forward to this. Like, just keep the comments to a minimum. That's all she had to do. Even if she disagreed, like, just don't say anything. But I feel like she's a little bit older, 64 years old, and she probably wasn't willing to change or compromise or whatever. So being a little bit hard-headed, she just decided to leave. I'm a little bit upset with the husband because I feel like I would have wanted him to back her up a little bit more on this. But let's see what the comments say. Not the a-hole and your husband is 100% wrong. I hate this notion that family being together is more important. No, it is not. In this case, if someone is being rude throughout the meal, you should get them to leave. Why excuse their bad behavior? If mother-in-law was spewing racist comments throughout the meal, no one would be saying, oh, just keep the peace. It's more important for family to be together. Well, some people might. No, it isn't. Not if you're making everyone else uncomfortable. Please show this to your husband. Someone else said, I would say the husband is 100% right. Family being together is more important than a restaurant being overpriced. That's why his mother should have kept her mouth shut. Ah, you had me in the first half. That's why his mother should have kept her mouth shut and kept the peace herself instead of uttering her warmongering comments. It wasn't OP who was threatening the peace. It was shattered the moment the little girl caught on to the criticism, and her grandmother was far too up her own A to let her have her princess day, not the a-hole. Someone else said the husband was 100% correct, and that's why his mom should have bit her tongue and indulged her granddaughter. Grab a burger on the way home and enjoy little cakes with your family. Wife gave her a chance to just enjoy it. Yeah, so I agree with all of the comments. I don't think the mom did anything wrong, and honestly, the mother-in-law sounds like a total buzzkill. She could have just kept her mouth shut and ate the cake. Like, come on. All right, the next story. Am I the a-hole for not telling my mother-in-law our vacation plans? Who? Boy, I am having anxiety right now and thoughts are swimming. Let's get into it. My 28 female, husband 27 male, kids, toddler and infant, and I drove out to a different state 13 hours away from us to visit my father-in-law for the 4th of July week for a vacation. My mother-in-law and father-in-law are recently divorced as of 2021, a separation that my mother-in-law did not want. Father-in-law got remarried a few weeks after it was finalized. Now, like in many divorces, not everything is black and white. Yet my mother-in-law seems to want to paint the picture that my father-in-law is evil, deceitful, and manipulative. From what we have gathered, it's an everyone sucks here situation. We live close to my mother-in-law and love her, but my husband has not seen his dad in 2 years and misses him. So for the 4th, we decided to visit father-in-law. Now, due to my mother-in-law preaching about how evil he is, most of my husband's family believes her, and it makes it awkward to tell anyone that we are still in contact with father-in-law and that we wanted to visit him. My husband didn't even tell his brother our plans until about a week before we left. He took it well and is still trying to decide how he feels about the whole situation. Well, the day after we arrived at father-in-law's, we both received a text from mother-in-law. All it was a sobbing emoji. Nothing else. And now, today, almost a week of being back in our home state, mother-in-law sent us both a text about how hurt she was that we didn't inform her about our plans to visit father-in-law and how she felt deceived, and even compared us to father-in-law. She then claimed she didn't want to stand in our way of having a relationship with him, while also saying it hurts her that we want a relationship with him. I love my mother-in-law, but this is feeling manipulative of her. But I feel I need an outsider's opinion. So, am I the a-hole? Girl, you are definitely not the a-hole. And she's saying that it hurts her that you guys didn't inform her about your plans to visit. But if you had informed her, what would have changed? Like, how would that have made a difference? I don't understand it. She clearly doesn't want you guys to have a relationship with father-in-law for whatever reason, but like her and her and her ex-husband's failed relationship has nothing to do with you guys. And like, that's still her son's father. He's still going to want to have a relationship with his father regardless. That shouldn't have to have anything to do with the mother. I say she better get it together before she starts to push the son away and then he wants to be around the father more than her. And then she just completely like gets left to the wayside. Like, she just needs to get over herself, basically. You got divorced, it's over. You still have your children, you still have your grandchildren, that's great. You no longer have your husband. It's over. Get over it. I'm sorry. So just reading some of the comments. Not the a-hole. Mother-in-law is trying to emotionally manipulate you. That is toxic behavior. Not the a-hole. You're an adult. You can have a relationship with whoever you choose. Not the a-hole. I wouldn't tell her if I were visiting the father-in-law either. I'd fear she'd show up with either guilt or violent family members, and my children would have to see all that. OP replied she wouldn't have done that. Like I said, it's a 13-hour drive. It also would have been difficult to inform her in private, as every setting we have seen her in was with other family members, especially around one of my sister-in-laws. This sister-in-law has a violent hatred of my father-in-law. There would have been yelling and screaming if we had told mother-in-law in sister-in-law's presence, which again is 90% of the time we see mother-in-law in person. And someone else, not the a-hole, while she's allowed to say she's hurt, you are adults who don't need to inform her of your plans with another adult. And comparing you to father-in-law when she's been saying bad things was totally inappropriate. Agreed. I pretty much agree with all the comments, not the a-hole. And yeah, mother-in-law is entitled to her own feelings, but she doesn't have to project that onto other people. Like, other people are also entitled to their own feelings and their own relationships with people. So let's get to the saga of today. This story has 3 updates, so let's just get into it. Entitled, Sister-in-Law Wants Custody of My Baby. Background, me, 36 female, sister-in-law, 40 female. I've been married to her brother for over 10 years, and there's always been some jealousy and resentment from her. She's always felt like I had the life she wanted. Not necessarily with her brother, but the marriage, family, job, stability, etc. I have 3 kids, 10 female, 8 male, and 3-month female. She got married last year and they decided to start trying for a baby, but she was unfortunately told that she can't have children naturally. She was understandably devastated, and the family comforted her as best as we could. We recently had a family dinner, and in the middle of it, she says, "Angel 698, I think it's really unfair that you got to have 3 kids and I can't have any. Your baby is my last chance to raise a child, so I think you should give her to me during the week so I can create a motherly bond with her and you can have her on the weekends." The audacity! Before I could respond, the entire table erupted with everyone talking at once, so I took my older kids upstairs. When I got back to the dining room, her husband was asking what the heck is wrong with her and why would she even think to ask that. She was trying to justify herself when I asked them to leave. I also said that she's no longer welcome at my house or around my children until she gets help. Facts. She started screaming that I don't deserve my life or my children and that I stole her baby from her. Her husband and mother-in-law kept apologizing and dragged her out of the house, still crying and screaming. Now my kids want to know why their aunt wants to take the baby. Edit. I've been reading the comments, but it's too many to reply to, so here are a few points. We have a security system and cameras already installed, and no one has keys to our house. I will not be able to get a restraining order as this one incident isn't enough to justify it. My husband and I spoke to older kids about it the same night, and we'll be having another talk with them to reinforce that sister-in-law is not a safe person anymore. Our country does not have the right to bear arms, and I also have no interest in getting a gun. I'll be informing the school and daycare of the issue and giving them her photo. For those questioning the validity of the post, I completely understand. If I had heard about this last week, I wouldn't believe it either, but it's unfortunately the situation I'm currently dealing with. Goodness gracious. I'm sorry, sis. That's absolutely crazy. Honestly, I probably would have cut out sister-in-law from my life sooner, or maybe not cut out, but just like severely limited my contact, because just hearing you say that there's always been jealousy and resentment from her, that's just scary. Like, to have someone around that you know they want what you have and you can feel like that jealousy and resentment all the time, that's just scary. And obviously it's gotten to the point where it has created some sort of psychological disconnect in her mind to where she's now saying, "You stole my baby from you." Like, it was never your baby to steal. Yeah, so I think you have taken some good steps with informing school and the daycare, etc. You got the security, all of that. I think all of the comments are pretty much just going to say some of the things that you already addressed. So let me go to the first update. Update entitled Sister-in-Law Wants Custody of My Baby. TLDR, sister-in-law found out she can't have kids and demanded that I give her my baby every week. So my sister-in-law has been admitted to a psychiatric facility. In the comments of my previous post, I mentioned that her husband was seeking out counseling for them to deal with infertility prior to this incident. After the incident, he sought out a psychiatrist rather than a counselor, and they had their first session last week. I didn't get into the specifics of what happened, but basically, she made some statements that the psychiatrist felt indicated she was a danger to others, my baby and me, and she was placed under an involuntary hold. My brother-in-law has been nothing but apologetic through this entire ordeal, and he kept her away from us since the incident. Mother-in-law was staying with them to keep an eye on sister-in-law. She tried to leave the house in the middle of the night to see her baby. Also, brother-in-law found her researching how to induce lactation, and she said it was to make sure she can feed the baby properly when I come to my senses and give her up. Wow. From what brother-in-law has said, seeing me breastfeed is apparently what triggered the entire episode. It was the first time sister-in-law was around the baby for any length of time, and she was holding her when she got fussy because she was hungry. Naturally, I took her to feed her, and this made sister-in-law feel inadequate because it triggered the thought that she would never be able to do that, which led to the events of the last post. I'm grateful for all the advice that was offered on my last post, as some of it was really helpful. We won't be moving as it's not feasible for us at the moment, but we have taken extra steps with security both at home and at the kids' school and daycare. The whole thing is taking a toll on the family, but mother-in-law, father-in-law, and brother-in-law are all taking care of sister-in-law, and my husband and I are focused on ensuring the safety of our immediate family and minimizing the effect on the kids as much as we can. Man, so sister-in-law had a full mental breakdown. I mean, I do feel bad for her. I personally am child-free, but if I wanted to have kids and I was trying, and then I realized that I couldn't. On top of that, I'm seeing this person in close proximity to me popping out kids, and with a newborn, I'm seeing them breastfeed. I'm seeing them be able to do the things that I'm not able to do. Like, I understand. Well, I don't understand why sister-in-law had a mental breakdown, but I can sympathize with what's going on as far as her thought process. But hopefully she is able to get help, because that's absolutely wild. And they might not be able to have a relationship with her ever again, really, until at least the kids are more grown and at least, teenage years, are able to fight back. And in any case, really, I mean, I wouldn't feel safe around her ever again after this. But let's just look at some of the comments. I'm glad your family took the initiative and got the help and the treatment your sister-in-law needs. And it's a good thing that the entire family was keeping an eye on her. Otherwise, this would have been a different update. Unfortunately, it's going to be a while before sister-in-law is well enough to go out into society. Continue to keep your family safe. I'm sorry this happened to you and your children. Ooh, someone else said, I read a different post about an aunt who struggled with addiction and mental illness, returned after a number of years, made uncomfortable comments about the children, and the parents told the children that though they were related to aunt, she was not to be trusted because of some worrying behaviors, and to not do anything with her without one of them present. Days later, the aunt attempted to kidnap her niece from school by talking to her through a fence outside and telling the girl to come right out to her car. The niece said she needed her backpack, but went to the administration and told them that aunt was not trustworthy and she wouldn't go without one of her parents physically there. The office checked, and sure enough, aunt was not approved to remove the niece from school. The aunt apparently went ballistic in the parking lot when approached by a principal, and she was detained. She had an unregistered firearm in her car, and even if she denied the kidnapping attempt, the zero tolerance rules for weapons on school grounds will keep her in prison for a while and assisted with a restraining order. If the parents hadn't told their children an age-appropriate reason that they should not go with aunt, that girl could have been one of the hundreds of children who are kidnapped by family. Tell your kids the truth that they can understand. It's important. Wow. If that doesn't demonstrate the importance of telling your kids the truth, because that could have ended. I don't even want to know how that could have ended. The original story has 2 more updates. So before I get into those updates, comment below what you think of the stories so far, and let me know if you have any interesting in-law stories that align with some of the stories that we read today. If you are enjoying this video so far, consider giving it a like and maybe even subscribing. Update 2. I've had a few messages asking how things are going, so I decided to update. I have not seen sister-in-law since the incident happened, and I also blocked her on my socials. My in-laws have been amazing through this entire situation and are not sharing any information about our family with her. Unfortunately, she still remains fixated on my baby. She tried to find out where the daycare is and even threatened to hurt herself if my in-laws didn't tell her. This led to another stint in the psych ward. She wrote me a letter begging me to be fair and let her see her baby. I didn't actually receive the letter though. My mother-in-law read it and just gave us the gist of its contents. Sister-in-law's husband is working with her psychiatrist to see how best she can be helped, but he has said he doesn't know how long he can deal with this, but he's giving it 6 months. It's a very sad situation for her, and I had hoped she would be able to deal with whatever is happening. At this point, we're completely no contact with her. We explained to our older kids that their aunt isn't well, so she won't be around anymore. We still see mother-in-law and father-in-law regularly, so I'm grateful we didn't have to cut them off. We spent the holidays with my family, and it was all very nice and uneventful. We're still on high alert in case she escalates, but the hospital where she's warded isn't near us, and they don't live near us either. So we've accepted this is our new reality, and we're operating accordingly. I'm not gonna lie, in a situation like this where she's had a psych ward stay, she's still doubling down on that the baby is hers and that OP needs to give the baby to her and be fair. I know they said it's not feasible for them to move right now, but I would have to try and see like what I could do. Maybe I could house swap with someone, or I don't know. I just wouldn't feel safe being at that house, because especially the fact that sister-in-law's husband is pretty much about ready to give up. So if he leaves, then there's like essentially no one to kind of monitor her whereabouts and see what she's doing and making sure that like no harm is coming towards her, so I don't know. That's a scary situation. I can't even imagine. In the comments, people are saying like get a permanent restraining order. In my opinion, that still does nothing, because people violate restraining orders all the time. Like if you're really that deep into a state of psychosis or mental illness, a piece of paper is not going to deter you from bothering somebody. You're just going to violate the order and be arrested. And, so that's a very scary situation. Let me go to the last and final update. So lots of people have been messaging and commenting asking for an update. Oh, this was posted today. Firstly, my family and I are safe. Sister-in-law was eventually released from hospital to continue outpatient treatment with a psychiatrist, and she's on some meds. My husband met up with her husband, mother-in-law, and father-in-law to get a feel of her mental state. She was very apologetic and seems to understand the issue with her previous behavior. She asked to see the kids and I, but that was, of course, a no, and my husband let her know that she will have no access to us for the foreseeable future. Since she was discharged, mother-in-law has been awesome about letting us know when she would be at their house so we wouldn't run into her accidentally. Mother-in-law also told my husband a few days ago that sister-in-law has been saying it's hard not being able to see the kids. She told him for information's sake and not to guilt him into changing our boundaries. Sister-in-law and her husband are looking into migrating to give her some distance in hopes that it will help her healing. I'm hoping for the best for their future, but it will be a future without my kids and I in it. Yeah, because that update was not giving me confidence. This update was posted today, and the original post was 8 months ago. And this update is not giving me the confidence that sister-in-law has truly changed. The fact that she's saying she's requesting to see OP and the kids, and she's also saying that it's hard for her not to see the kids. Why would it be hard? Like, it's just not giving me the confidence that she has changed enough. But I am happy to hear that that they're thinking about migrating and moving further away. Man, I really feel for sister-in-law's husband, because I just know that has to be a lot to deal with. I'm glad to hear that they're getting into a place that's a little bit more safe. Hopefully they keep their head on a swivel and don't let their guard down, because even though they are migrating away, like, who's to say sister-in-law doesn't snap one day and run away from home and travel? Like, anything can happen. Anything can happen. So they need to constantly be on guard. Anytime the kids change schools, the schools need to be made aware of the situation. And just because she's planning on moving away or will be moved away soon doesn't mean they're still out of they're in the clear. But wow, there are some interesting people in this world. That concludes today's episode of Daisha's Digest. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next video.